I earned my PhD in design from Northeastern, then spent 4 years working as an adjunct professor at the University of Connecticut. And, well, I was ready for a change. Now, I know I'm far from the first teacher or professor who's had a higher-up breathing down their necks. In my particular case, a male professor I had had as an undergrad had made my day-to-day work life as an adjunct professor really stressful. Landing the job at Maui College was my ticket to get out of there. So I packed whatever I'd be keeping and shipped my stuff off to Hawaii. The college had set me up with a small, off-campus house. Nothing sounded better to me than having a whole house to myself. There was a white, low-roofed 2-bedroom in Kahului, which was about 10 minutes from campus. They had these large windows and a big living room, dining room area. It looked pretty good for being built in 1910, but it definitely needed a good cleaning, since no one had lived there for a while. I spent that first day getting the power turned on, dragging my boxes of stuff I'd shipped into the right areas of the house. Then I got my desk and office set up. I was exhausted by the end of that first day. I slept like a baby, listening to the faint sounds of surf hitting the rocky cliffside. I couldn't believe how quiet it was at night. On day 2, I swept out the entire house, then got to mopping. Just as I finished round 1 of mopping, I'm walking out of the kitchen door and onto the back porch when I notice that it wobbles the moment I step on it. My dad being a contractor, I know how to fix a thing or two. So, I got down and took a look and saw that the post on the right wasn't hitting the ground since it was sitting right on the dirt and a lot of soil had eroded from that area. A couple of hours later, I'm taking out the trash and I see this large, flat stone. It's black and looks a lot like a stepping stone. I grab a pick and shovel from the shed, dig it up, and drag it towards the porch post. Then I use my legs to slide the stone into place, right under the post. Then I fill in the area around it with some dirt, figuring that'll do fine for now. That's when I heard this loud crash coming from the kitchen. Well, I ran in to see my old paperweight, which was made out of this heavy blue glass, is shattered all over the tiled kitchen floor. It was special to me, that old paperweight. I'd set it far back on the kitchen counter to make sure it wasn't somewhere where I might knock it down accidentally. I just couldn't understand how it could have fallen. Then I thought, maybe one of the kids I'd seen around the neighborhood had snuck in and broke it. I looked out the front and didn't see any of them biking around. So, the fall semester starts and things are going really well at the college. Most of the faculty at the school seem pretty laid back and the students are super dedicated and engaged. And it's great not having someone watching my every move. At home, though, things don't feel right. I keep thinking I see someone or something moving just past my field of vision. It was like I'd see flickers of a child or children's legs running past me. But just for a millisecond. Then they were gone. For that entire first semester, it was that, and finding my things in the wrong places. When my keys ended up in the freezer, I thought I'd somehow managed to do that myself. Then, I opened the door one morning to find a pair of sneakers and winter slippers stacked on top of each other in front of my doorway. Considering I kept my shoes in the closet back then, there was no mistaking that something strange was definitely going on. It's a weekday around 7 a.m., and I'm showering and kind of thinking about that day's lesson plan. I'd gotten into the habit of leaving the bathroom door open to let the steam escape. So I'm kind of talking to myself when I get the very strong feeling that someone is standing in the bathroom doorway. Well, since the plastic shower curtain is see-through, I can see no one is there. But there's no denying it. Someone or something is watching me. That's when the bathroom door slams closed with so much force the whole house shakes. I jump out of the shower, pull a towel around me, and grab the heaviest thing I can find, which happens to be a hairdryer. Then I walk around the house, dripping water on the floor. I look and look, but no one's there. So, about a week after that, I'm sitting at the table after dinner, feeling tired, when my eyes drift towards these shelves I put up across the room, and I watch as this vase I made slides all the way to the left across the shelf, then stops, and just as my mind registers what I'm seeing, it falls and hits the ground. There was no logical explanation for what I'd just seen. Not one. And for the very first time in my life, I was very, very unsure about my reality. Was I frightened? I was physically petrified and thinking I had to reassess my mental health, but I felt it. There was no mistaking it. I knew something was there with me. Then it was gone, and somehow I managed to pick up my chipped vase and go to sleep that night. Things weren't the same after that. Almost nightly, right as I'm about to fall asleep, I'll hear the silverware drawer opening and closing. I know it's that drawer because I can hear the silverware rattling. I also hear the refrigerator door opening and shutting, always with a lot of force. It starts affecting my work. When I'm at school, I'm preoccupied about what's going on in the house, even though it's honestly the last place I want to be. After school, I'll come home to see a plant of mine's been pulled out of the pot and is sitting in the middle of my rug. Another day, I'll come home to see that an entire tube of toothpaste has been squeezed out into the bathroom sink. What else sucks about my predicament is there's no one to talk to. I'm just sure that no one will believe me. I wouldn't believe myself if it had happened to someone else, and not me. When I finally call home to talk to my folks, something stops me. It's like the words can't leave my throat. I'm sleeping less and less, and staying late at school, grading papers from my small office rather than at home. I'm at school one night, walking through the hall, when I hear someone delivering a lecture on native Hawaiian religious practices. Well, I sat through the last half of the talk and learned that the speaker was Professor Opunui, head of the Hawaiian Studies program at school. After weeks of trying to get her to return my emails and phone calls, I've managed to get her to join me for a coffee in the school's cafe, and I'm trying to engage her in some kind of small talk, when she looks at me with this stoic look on her face and says, "Tell me why you really wanted to see me." I realize I'm about to tell her words I've never had the strength to say out loud to anyone. Speaking just above a whisper, making sure no one else can hear me, I start telling her about the things that have been happening in the house. And the next thing I know, I'm crying. And second by second, I can feel my fear growing. It's like someone is turning up the volume of my fear. My heart is beating so hard in my chest that I can hear it in my eardrums. And I'm finding it hard to breathe. Professor Punui grabs me by the hand and walks me out of the cafe and into this garden area a ways away. She asks me, "Have you disturbed the land?" I tell her no. I've only cleaned the house and moved in a few of my things. She tells me to take off my shoes the moment I get home and walk around the land surrounding the house and explain to the spirits why I'm there, on their land. To tell them I didn't mean to offend them, and tell them about the good I'm doing on the land and in the community, not in some kind of academic way, but speaking from the truest part of myself and my beliefs. I wasn't sure I understood everything Professor Punui was telling me, but I told her I would speak from the heart. And so that's what I did. I drove home, parked the car, and walked the perimeter of the property in circles, telling them why I was there. I asked for their forgiveness and apologized if something I'd done had disrespected them or their land. It felt really, really strange for me at first. After a while, I felt like they were listening. The The strange occurrences didn't stop after that, but they did happen less frequently. And somehow, just seeing how talking to them made things feel different in the house gave me a sense of hope. It was hope that helped ease my fear a bit. Over the next few months, I got to know my neighbor Noelani and her family. When I finally got up the courage to tell her about the things I'd been experiencing in the house, she looked completely unfazed by what I was telling her. She told me the occurrences happening less frequently was a good sign, but that I probably still had more work to do, since the uhane were still active in the house. I kept what she told me in the back of my mind. By then, I'd made walking around the land and talking to the uhane a habit, or even a ritual of sorts. Then Scott, my old college boyfriend, came to visit. I picked him up from the airport and set him up on the living room couch. At 5 a.m., I woke to the sound of the radio blaring. I ran out to the living room to turn off the radio, and just as soon as I turned it off, the kitchen drawer and fridge started opening and closing. When I turned on the living room light, Scott was literally white as a sheet. Within minutes, he'd called a cab and left my place. Seeing how scared he looked reminded me of just how afraid I had once been. I called him and asked him to come back so that I could show him the island. He told me there was no way he was coming back to my place. I felt angry at myself for not anticipating how having a house guest might stir things up. Later that morning, I was going out to my car for something when I stepped on the back porch and remembered how, months ago, I'd moved a large black stone from where it had once been. I took a look underneath the wooden floorboards, and there it was. Could that be it? I asked myself. I went back to the area I'd moved the rock from. There was still an impression showing me where it had once been. I went to my neighbor Noelani's place and told her what I'd just remembered. She told me my hunch was probably right. I had upset the spirits when I'd moved a sacred stone. Probably the burial stone of someone who had passed away. I walked around the yard barefoot, telling the uhane I was sorry for having been so blind and for not remembering what I had done sooner. I put on a long dress, the closest thing I had to a traditional muumuu, and walked into town, bought a mailele, which I put around my neck. And right before sunset that day, I carefully dug up the black stone, dragged it across the yard, and returned it to where I'd found it. Then, I got onto my knees and lit a candle at the site. It was just something I felt I should do. I placed the lei around the stone while saying a blessing my neighbor Noelani had taught me, which translates into, a humble person walks with care so that they do not hurt others. It was uncanny how well it fit. I had come onto the land oblivious to what had been there before. The uhane had shown me the importance of acting with care, with humility, and with knowing you don't know everything. The activity stopped after that, and I spent 8 more years at Maui College. It was a time that deepened me. It's where I can say I learned to really become an adult, someone who's thoughtful, who truly respects others, and who knows that we are not alone.